I have very traditional parents, and in order for me to go out, like for festivals, I guess, or like not even festivals, I want to say Vivid, like the light show that we have here in Sydney, even to go to that, because it's at night and it's so late and it's in the city, I had to push quite hard to go to these events, and eventually like loosen the reins enough so I could do other things like explore Sydney to my heart's content, which is good because not everything is within like an hour or two from like home or like yeah, exactly, and it takes so much out of your day having to travel anyways. So yeah, so basically what I did was, in order to like go out, I would have to like be home by a certain time, and every so often I would be like, oh, like, you know, I want to come home a little bit later, and like, you know, just give them a bit of notice so that they're like prepared. And then I would say, oh, like 8 or 9 o'clock, an acceptable time, and then push it a little bit. Oh, like the train's running late, or like I'm not finished yet. I stretch it a little bit and just be like, oh, look, we're still out. Our food hasn't come yet, or whatever it is, and then I'd be back at like 10 o'clock, and then the next time I'd go out it'd be like 10:30, 11, or so on, in order to like push it. But I remember the closer we got to midnight, the more calls I'd get. So at one time we were out actually at Vivid, I got like I think 6 or 7 missed calls at like 11 saying like, why aren't you home yet? Where are you? And I was like, I'm still in the city. And they were like, what? You're still in the city?
A rebel.
Yeah.
Breaking out.
Yeah, and they're like, why? Who let you? And I remember my auntie called me that day, and I was like, chill, it's a light festival. It started at like
dark.
Yeah, it has to be dark.
And you need to turn off the sun.
Yes, exactly. And so I was like, oh, and by the time we do a loop around and then take the train back, look, I'll be home. And then eventually I pushed it so that it was like 12, and then like increments to 1, because that's another process. And then yeah, like once the reins were a little bit looser, I was able to push to obviously travel further, stay maybe for one night at a Airbnb at Wollongong, or like stay a few nights for a friend's birthday. But I'd have to like tell them obviously where I was, like who to contact, like what the address and everything is, and what we had planned to do. And I think after a few times of doing that, I think I gained their trust enough, because I was back in one piece. I had great memories to share in photos and videos and little like, you know, like just memoirs of that place, that they felt happy and that I was in one piece and responsible enough to look after myself / other people I was with, that eventually I was like, look, I want to go to New Zealand. It's basically next door.
Basically Tasmania.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically next door. I didn't start off with Tasmania.
Yeah.
I started off, I was like, look, I really want to go to Korea. I really want to go to Japan. Like, you know, like the normal things. I haven't been to those 2 places yet, but I was like, look, I want to go to those. So how do I do it? Let's go to New Zealand. Yep, it's next door. And then essentially I had to come up with a big PDF just showing them exactly where I'd go. And I had my license at that time, and I was like, I'm the designated driver. I had been driving for this long, and I wasn't allowed to drive by myself until I had my green peas, until they could trust that I was like, I could hold my red peas and like not do anything. So anyways, as soon as I had my license and everything, like my green peas, I was like off, I was out of there. I was like, laters, yep. And yeah, so we arrived, and before we arrived, I had convinced them to let me go. And I remember the weeks leading up to it, I was like, oh, you know, like, remember, I'm not going to be here for a few weeks, like a week. I think we went for 2 weeks, yeah. So I was like, remember, I won't be here for 2 weeks on this day. I'm going away. And they were like, oh yeah. They thought I was joking the whole time. They honestly thought I was joking. Out. And then the morning of, they were like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, on that trip I've been telling you for the past 2 months. Yep, I'm going to that today. And they were like, really? And I'm like, my bags are right here. Yep. So me and my friends met at the airport. All the other parents were there, and I'm the responsible one. And so everyone's like, their parents are all there. My parents parents are like sleeping. They were like, oh, okay, you're actually going. Okay, I believe you now. Laters. And then I had to say to each and every one, like, hi auntie, hi uncle. Yes, oh look, I will look after him. Look, my license. Yes, I'm a green pea. Yes, I can drive. This is my car.
I don't drink.
I have a big 4-wheel drive car. It's okay. I'm used to it. And so I was like, I'll look after her. I'll look after him. It's okay. It's okay. And then we went. So the group of 5 of us went, and oh, you won't believe our itinerary. Skydiving. I think it was canoeing down the middle of a lake, and then we were driving up and down. It's called the reversibles or something like that. Oh, it's been a while, but we drove up. It was so windy that day. I drove slowly up there just because the car was literally like shifting because of how strong the winds were. And we literally rock climbed up of a snowy like cliff face of it was like a closed ski place because I think either the snow was like too heavy or whatever it was, not the season. But we went there and we rock climbed up of the cliff face in order to like get to the top where there was like a frozen lake. It was so dangerous that day that after we rock climbed up, like we'll just hang around here for a bit, play around in the snow, and then just call it a day. We didn't make it to the actual frozen lake, but many stories to come. It was crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why you make me wish like I charged my laptop more so we could actually talk about it. Now you've got to come on for a second time.
Yes, and I'll be excited to share because that's actually how we connected throughout
travel's our language.
Travel,
You speak travel. The thing I wanted to touch on before the laptop died or anything like that was, you know how you started this by saying pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
I feel like, stretching boundaries, if anything, because pushing sounds like a bit...
Nudging, just slowly.
Actually, what I wanted to say, I feel like it was more you were just building trust.
Yeah.
More than building trust, because I feel like this whole pushing of boundaries makes it sound like a toll where like, I've got to push these boundaries with my parents, like, oh mate, what parents, why are you going to make me act up? What am I going to act up for?
Yeah.
Instead, it's like building trust.
Yeah.
And I think you're a very classic example of like how it's possible. Of course, not everyone's experience is the same, but I literally just heard how you built it from 9 o'clock to all the way to weeks on end.
Yeah. No, but I think I love my family and I would never hurt them by like making them worried for me or my safety. And like I don't want my mum to lose sleep not knowing where I am at night. So obviously that is a very good way of describing it. Like I wanted to build like boundaries that were I just good for my own moral compass, but also like knowing that they would sleep soundly at night, knowing I was responsible, looking after myself, even though I wasn't at home anymore. Yeah,
it was I've always thought about that, and it taken into account like maybe how I would parent as well. For me, obviously the experiences as an Asian boy.
Yeah.
Right. So you know how the boys usually, or maybe you don't. Do your cousins you might know, like boys kind of have it a little bit easier when it comes to going out and things like that.
100%.
But I've grown up and I've seen what the world out there is like and why parents are worried. And sometimes I think it's justified that they're worried.
100%.
But one of my concerns was I asked my mum this. I'm like, how did you find out when you decided it was okay for me to start doing this? Because for me it was earlier on. I was year 8, first time I asked to hang out with my friends outside of like on a weekend kind of thing, and she was like, okay, cool, and I was very surprised.
Oh wow.
I was like, okay, cool. We'll get to never at the time before that I didn't have that many friends either, but I started making friends. So I started hanging outside with friends from other school and things like that, and that was the experience I was having. But as I grew up, I noticed I'd come into contact with certain things, and I started to think to myself, if I have my own child, how can I be sure? And like, because I'd be worried. I think if my kid's anything like me, be worried, and just things as worried as like crossing the road, not getting hit by a car, things like that. Like, I don't know, like as a parent, I definitely don't know as a parent because I'm not a parent, but how that feeling of that middle ground of if I don't let them go, they miss out. If I do let them go, they could be in danger. It's my precious. I don't want anything to happen to them.
I think it's like your best judgment because I had a similar situation in year 8 where I wanted to go hang out with my friends, but that was a solid no. And the only way to get around was invite them over to watch a movie. And so we did that instead. And in year 6, I wanted to go to a school dance. So it's like the school runs it, whatever, there's a note and you pay and then you go. But it was a solid no, even after crying in my like little disco hat that I bought. No, just solid no. It's nighttime, you're like in year six. You have no business to be dancing with little boys. No. And I'm like, looking back, that was a very, very like good judgment. Like, yes, I would have been sad. I did sook for a while, but like what would I have gained? Like, yeah, your friends would have been there, but one night away, I would have seen them the next day anyways. It's Monday.
You're really good at looking at that bigger picture. I love it, the grand scheme and everything like that. On that end, yeah, well, I mean, I do take into account that, Michelle, you come from a very understanding perspective. Like, yeah, we've saying that.
Very grateful.
Yeah, it's not. Was at the end of the day you cried, but now you think about it, it wasn't even worth it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then however the other school of thoughts also to critique on the parents' side being it's just a school dance, but I feel like it's the cultural.
Yeah.
Is it a cultural thing? Is it?
Yeah.
Because when you mentioned the nighttime thing and saying you have no reason to be out at night, I'm like, yeah, true. You're in your six. You have no reason to be not under a roof past this hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have no reason to be seeing your school friends at this hour.
Yeah.
Unless they sleepovers and stuff. But Asian kids that really do sleepovers, didn't we?
And it's like if you wanted to go and like, you know, go buy snacks after school, that's fine. But after dark, a dance at school, no. Like, very reasonable.
I would think the school thing would sell it because like the school would be like, no, it's a thing that we're organising. But I mean, you know, you grow up and you realise those were the non-issues. Yeah, those were exactly. A lot of like the. If your biggest concern is that growing up as an Asian was you weren't able to go to like the school dance and that was the distinguishing factor, it's like then you're okay then. Yeah. No, a bit of a round back being that link between that year six experience with your life. I feel like if I were growing up around you, you'd be that friend of mine who she's always well behaved and
similar experience. Yeah, exactly.